interesting fact that on average we spend 33% of our time in meetings, and yet we don't feel like we're getting very much done, and we also don't feel very connected to our team, our coworkers, our customers. Something is missing and we're not making the best use of the time, because meetings aren't necessarily good or bad, they're just meetings. But it's the sheer amount of meetings, I would argue, that, and the fact that they're not done well or orchestrated in a helpful way, that really undermines their value. So today we're going to be talking about meetings, or engage, the E step in the power routine, because for many of us, meetings are just such a big part of our days. I know for many leaders, it feels like over 100% of our 8-hour day is taken up with meetings, and for everybody on average, it's 33%. So this is an important thing to get right, so that we know that we're making a good use of our time, and that after a 2,000 hour year, and we look back at 800 hours of that or so, 700, that did we use that time well? That's a lot of time, and instead of ending up stressed, frustrated, and disconnected, maybe we could be closer. Maybe we could move the world forward together, and maybe meetings could be a good thing. So today on our episode of Timesmith podcast, we're going to be talking about meetings. And so we'll start with 7 reasons that meetings happen unnecessarily, so you can spot these reasons, get ahead of them, and that warning there that some of these are culture shifting things, but I believe in you. We're going to talk about 5 reasons to have a meeting. We're going to talk about 8 strategies to have a productive meeting, 8 ways to better engage during meetings. Warning, that part might take some courage. And last but not least, 3 ways to hack bad meetings that you are not in charge of. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, welcome to the Timesmith podcast, where I help you cut distractions, understand email, chat, inputs, how to process that stuff quick so you can get through it and get on with your life, how to keep a couple or a few lists, but keep them short, small, so that they're not overwhelming. Use a daily routine, do all of it, including getting one main thing done a day. And then basically the idea is that you can be more focused, way less stressed. From 100 to 0 is the goal, and really just get that important work done that you want to do. So without further ado, let's get started. Real quick, why listen to me? Because I think that, you have a right to know why I think you should listen to me. Really, when we're listening to podcasts and things, I think what we're doing is taking in information of somebody that's ahead of us in a certain area of life. And for me, productivity is just like a nerdy thing that I have always cared about and thought about, at least for the last 8 years or so. I spent over 10,000, probably closer to 15,000 hours studying productivity and implementing it in just day-to-day work. It's funny because a lot of times, for a while, I felt bad, like what gets you up in the morning and to work? To me, it was not just my customers and my work, but actually just making my work more efficient each and every day. Super nerdy, but I just loved making things and systems and processes and making them easier. But real quick, with all of that, I still had like this huge list of tasks. I knew all the things I should be doing based on all my research and studying, but I still wasn't able to get to things. It came to a point where in a Wyoming hotel, I thought I could finally get away from the office and get some stuff done, but this is pre-COVID days, and actually just a month before COVID. and I thought I could, but all of a sudden, I opened my computer and I had a bunch of chats and messages that I had to deal with, and yet again, I did not get to those important things I was looking forward to getting to, and I decided to make a change. And I'm happy to report that in 2, 3, or 4 hours, I could get done today way more than I ever did in 8. And I've been able to take on double the customers and a lot of extra responsibility, and even start this because there's just some keys that if you do them and put them into practice, I think you can do the same thing. So if you want to take back your time, if you want to go from kind of chaos and reacting all day, if you want to get to a point where you can be focused and get just what you need to done, then I suggest you use my power routine, a daily routine, and I'm going to teach you how to do each part of it. So that's why I think you should listen to me. I think you can buy back your time, make a lot better use of it, be a lot less stressed and more focused. And I think that I can be the person to help you with that. So let's keep going. Real quick, I want to just mention my free gift to you, which is the guide to get 2 hours back in your day just right away. Easy. It's a 2-page guide. You'll find it at timesmith.work/guide. And I will post that in the description as well here. So you can go and use that free gift as well. Please share this podcast. I think of COVID and how it spread a lot quicker because it was just a little bit more contagious and than like the flu or other viruses before it. And if you looked at the math, it was just exponential how much quicker it increased. And so just like COVID, I want to spread, okay, across the world, across the globe, and across the country, wherever, across all of it. And mostly because I really think that this stuff is helpful, and I see just most, if not all people seem to be just stuck in this fog of chaos all day. And I think that you can rise above that and get clear and get focused and just have a better life overall. So I think that if you share this, you're just helping in that, and that's the biggest way to support me. So I really appreciate it. Also, subscribe and star this, so you can subscribe it or follow it on the podcast app, or usually you can add a rating or review, a star, add 5 stars for me to, or whatever you think, however many stars you think. You can scroll down in your app and you should be able to find that. All right, 7 reasons meetings happen unnecessarily, so you can spot them and get ahead of them. Reason number 1, obviously the biggest one, probably, if you just take this away, then that might be enough for you for the whole podcast, even though I've got about 27 bullets here for the full podcast. But people just don't say no. I mean, it's that simple. It's kind of the same route as not turning off your notifications. And if you still have notifications blaring at you all day, please, 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 please turn those off. You're an adult. You can get back to them on your own. You do not need Outlook throwing ribbons at you. You do not need a bunch of notifications constantly blinking at you. Use your urgent chat is the only thing that should notify you, or a phone call. But besides that, you should turn off all notifications, and I have my second episode goes through all that information, so check that out. But it's the same route. It's really easy. It's so hard just to say no for some reason. I mean, maybe where we've got like this people pleaser thing in us. Really funny story. I was actually talking to somebody today who was given 2 options for dates of a meeting that they were going to present at. And instead of pushing back and just asking if the dates could change, they rearranged their trip to Hawaii so that they could get back in time for one of the dates that was given. I happened to be involved in this one, and we would have very easily and happily changed the dates, but this person went through tons of effort to change their Hawaii vacation instead of pushing back and just asking a question of, hey, can we change this? And how much more for like just in general do we constantly say, okay, that's fine. We don't really protect our time. It's like, oh, it's only a half hour. It's only an hour this one time, and I might be able to help or this or that. And I'm telling you, you should say no. You should take courage. Another word for this podcast instead of engage might be take courage, because your time is valuable to people. It's valuable for yourself. It's valuable before God. And so you need to think about all of that stuff. And if you say yes to a half hour here and a half hour there, an hour there, an hour here, it's not uncommon for you to have half of your week filled up with meetings that you could have said no to, could have been an email, etc. So when you've got that pit in your stomach, and I hope you get that pit now that we've talked about this, say no. Say no to the meeting, ask for something different. And if you just want to make people happy and like you, there's better ways to do that, like being yourself and being kind. But valuing your time will rub off on other people. They'll value their time. It'll be a good thing. So people won't hate you. They'll understand, and they value your time more than you probably do. Just like my friend who moved their Hawaii vacation, I would have done anything to not have had that person have to change their Hawaii vacation. I value their time so much, but it was easier to say yes, I guess. All right, number 2, can't get in touch with the person via chat or email. So this is just something that we'll get into a little bit, but the idea is if you can't get them in email or chat, then you might as well just set up an email, or might as well set up a meeting. So for those of you who don't get through your inbox daily and get through all of it, like I strongly recommend you do, then you're going to have more meetings. So if you don't want more meetings, if you want to be able to just do a quick review of an email and make a decision, that's the hard part. You do have to make a decision about an email and move it to archive once you're done with it, or respond and make something happen. You can't just stare at it forever and never do anything. But if you're not making decisions on your email and chat and decisions to what to do next, then you just don't get back. People are going to just start making more meetings with you so they can get your time. Number 3, why meetings happen unnecessarily is a leader can't delegate. So obviously leaders are all wanting to empower their team and things, and they don't necessarily know how to. There's really good information, I think, by a guy named Michael Hyatt on this if you need help. But leaders should be able to delegate decision making. It's often a cultural thing where leaders are the ones that have the final say in everything. Well, and even more than that, they seem to nitpick and just need it to be their way and their perspective. And they can be like great people, really awesome people, really smart people, and that's probably why they got where they are and why their decisions are good decisions. But if you don't I was just reading this by Chip Gaines, if you don't let your team make mistakes and make decisions, how do you expect them to learn and grow? So if you can't delegate, you're going to have a lot of meetings on your calendar because people are going to need your decision. And if that could be your fault or their fault. So you might need to encourage them to make decisions. Again, Michael Hyatt has a good structure for this. There's 5 steps of delegation, 1 being, I want to do this with you, and 5 being anything you do is fine, just do it. I don't even want to hear about your plan. So obviously there's a lot of room in between those. Number 4, it's just the default. I mean, just meet because I have a question. I just had one of these recently where instead of just typing out a 2-sentence email or chat, asking the specific question the person had, they just said, can we meet on this? I'd like to discuss it. It's just a default. Everybody says yes. It's just, yeah, let's just meet. If you're going to ask me to meet, everybody says yes to every meeting. So it's just let's do that instead of just taking some time on yourself, not burdening the other person's schedule and considering them and their time, and just taking 5 or 10 minutes to make a really good 2-sentence chat is worth it. So think about other ways you could do that. Number 5, always been that way. So there's tons of meetings that have just always been that way. We had an experience like this with our company. There's this thing called, in software world, there's a meeting called Stand Up every morning but our customer facing team was doing it kind of just because the development team was doing it. And it's just always been that way. So it was like so hard to change. But it was really kind of pointless for us. And so finally our leadership did change it. Now it's only on Tuesdays, and you kind of just talk through anything you need. And it's really just still a chance to see other people. It's not the most impactful meeting, but it's a lot better than 5 times a week. So sometimes it's just always been that way. So try to figure out what you can do about those meetings if they're pointless. 6, you may contribute a piece of information for like 30 seconds. So if you're like a subject matter expert on a project and you get invited, it can be this tug and pull, like you should be there because it's possible, just might be possible, that you will contribute and be helpful. And I'd say people can just follow up with you afterwards, if at all possible. They can usually probably figure it out themselves, and then if not, and the way I said that, I'm like, I'm your advocate here. I want you to make the best use of your time. Other people can figure out what they need, and they can be adults. And if they need something, they'll say to the people in the meeting, yeah, let's check in with that person, and I can get back to you after I reference whatever it is that we need from them. So they can ask you after the meeting. It's not a big deal. Think of it this way. A way to find out your hourly wage if you are a salary employee is just take your salary and divide it by 2, and then take off 3 zeros. So if you make 50 grand a year, divided by 2, 25 grand a year, or $25,000, and then you just take off 3 zeros, 25. So you make $25 an hour. So if you make 50,000 a year, you're basically working at $25 an hour, not including benefits. So say you agree to an hour meeting, how hard would it be to get your boss to approve a $25 purchase for you? And yet you're just flagrantly doing just that over and over again, giving your time over and over again to all of these different meetings where you might just be helpful. But those are also the meetings that help make us hate meetings, right? Because then we just feel like we have to be there even though we don't want to. So again, listen to your wanter and learn along the way if you make mistakes. 7, culture, mission, vision when the company has none. So for companies that just want to make money, which is most of them, they want to have a culture because cultures help people, employees, produce more. But over time, your employees will smell it out. They'll know that you're not genuine, that really it's just about making money, because push will come to shove. You'll have to choose between money and the values that you say that you stand by. And I don't want to sound like a pessimist. I'm actually an optimist a lot of times, if not the majority. But unfortunately, this is just an unnecessary meeting when it's about like all the vision and mission and stuff, and your employees are disengaged because they don't believe you. So what to do about that? I don't know. Probably a deep, thoughtful retreat and figuring out what do you really stand for in life. And if you're a leader of the company like that, and then I'm not a coach in that though. So figure that out for sure, because if you have a disengaged workforce, it's probably because they don't believe you, and maybe your actions have proven against you. All right, so now let's get into 5 reasons to have a meeting. So socializing. I know that as a productivity, time management coach, why would I talk about socializing and small talk and all of that? Well, because I'm not a robot, and like it's not about purely output, because there's intangible output, like the feeling of connectedness, of relationships, belonging, of trust, of our hearts. We're relational beings, all of that stuff. So I am a productivity coach, but in like a whole person sense. So I used to hate small talk, but like but now I just hate when people hate on small talk, because I actually do care about like the weather in some other state of one of my customers, or I really am curious about like how their puppy is doing or whatever. Cause I care about the people and I want to know. And it's like, that's how we connect. Like, it's not purely about just getting stuff done. I've heard a lot of stuff recently to listen to a great podcast called The Ken Coleman Show, and definitely recommend looking up. He helps you figure out like your dream job and stuff like that. But and then he coaches people, and it's like crazy. He'll take people from like completely confused and not knowing what they should do with their life to like ready to go with this like a very tangible, practical plan in like 5 minutes. It's awesome to listen to. But he's talked a lot about like the different research that's shown connection with your coworkers to be huge with job satisfaction. So it just goes to show that we need to take time to be together. It's really important. All right, another good reason, number 2, to have a meeting is to discuss something in more depth. I've said this on previous podcasts, but email and chat are good if you can just get a good one written and it kind of get one answer back. But if it goes much more than that, you're just making tons of email for them. They're making tons of email for you. Everybody's interrupting everybody's days, unless hopefully you and them have your notifications turned off. Or it can take a while, all of that stuff. But sometimes you get together in a meeting and you can discuss the root of whatever thing it is. Like, you can get deeper. You can figure out exactly why we're trying to do whatever we're trying to do, and plan it all together and brainstorm and have multiple perspectives and ideas come together. So obviously those are the times when you want a meeting. Number 3, I kind of just said this, but better than email for really communication. Oh, I didn't just say this. This is different. Number 3, better than email for communication heavy colleagues. So like with my direct manager, a lot of times instead of chatting him or emailing him, I know I have a one-on-one meeting coming up. I'll just throw it on my meeting agenda. Look at my 2 podcasts ago. I think that was the 3rd podcast about different lists you need. One of them is your meeting list or meeting agenda. But if you meet with somebody a lot, sometimes it can just be easier to like rattle through like 10 questions you have for them instead of emailing them or chatting them for 10 different things. So sometimes a meeting is good, just have recurring and just get through some of those things quick. It's better than email for leaders that aren't organized. So I know a lot of leaders are super busy and stuff, but if you have a system and you're organized, I think that you can get back to people and you can not just ghost people, but what do I know? So anyways, if they are not very organized, make sure to refer them to me too, so that I can help them to get organized, get clear and focused. They're probably struggling with some of the same things you are. But if you're going to email leaders and just be frustrated that they don't get back to you, or email people that just don't get back to you, sometimes you can just have a meeting with them. It's okay. It's kind of the opposite of the unnecessary reasons up above that I said. Sometimes it's unnecessary because you can't get in touch, but it is necessary because you can't get in touch with them. If you got in touch with them though, it wouldn't be necessary, if that makes sense. Reason number 5, it builds relationships. So same as number 1, it's important small talk and things like that, but it just builds relationships. And that's a huge part of my job, is just being kind of the face of my software company to my customers, to know that we care and that they can trust us and those sorts of things. So, and we're just relational beings, so it's important. Cool. All right, now let's get into 8 strategies to have a productive meeting. So I know that you're super excited about this stuff. Maybe you're as nerdy as I am, or maybe this is just your chance to write down 8 things and learn from this. So number one is to have an agenda, to have a meeting list. Just have items that you need to discuss. It's so much, you look so much more prepared because you are, and like you care and respect everyone's time because you do. When you have an agenda, when you have things that you want to talk about, don't just have a meeting to have a meeting and then just talk about whatever. Like it's, I don't know. I guess the analogy that comes to mind, maybe for better or for worse, is like marriage. Like it's awesome to be married, but it's like you should be doing something together, not just like only sitting around enjoying each other, gazing into each other's eyes. Like you should have kids, or you should like do things together, like meaningful things, and like that love and that relationship should come together to produce like fruit and real things. And so it's kind of like that with a meeting. Like we should care and love each other and like really enjoy the meetings and try to get to know the people and stuff. But like it's kind of pointless to just sit and look into each other's eyes. Like we should have things that we're doing, and that'll bring us closer in the process too. Number two, have specific outcomes you're looking for or deciding on, kind of like an agenda, but like at the end, you actually have like things you're looking for a decision on, like specific decisions. Number three, strategize so you have an optimist or idea person and a critical thinking person. So I learned this a long time ago that I pair well with a skeptic or a critical thinker because I just am pie in the sky. We can do anything. We can do amazing things. And I don't think of like any repercussions. And so I need somebody in the meeting that is like, well, did you think about this and this and this and that and this? At first that was frustrating, but now I realize like, no, that's helpful because as long as that person is open-minded to the idea, then it's a synergetic relationship where they can think of all the flaws and like things to think through, and I can be like, no, we can still do this even though there's lots of things that seem like they might not work. I'll keep going with that one just a little bit. If your team or meeting tends to have only critical thinking people, like get some optimism in there. There was one customer meeting where the person was just like, everything was just critical and negative, and there was never a chance anything would succeed. That's a little bit more than what I'm saying. I mean, people should be open more than that. But I brought in an optimist, like somebody who was a go-getter, and I was just desperate for anyone else at this customer to be on this meeting. And this person came into the meeting and just like completely changed the culture of the meeting to where it's like, yeah, there's things to think about, but it's really possible to do like anything. And it's been really helpful. So if you're just have critical complaining meetings, then consider bringing in an optimist and really encouraging them and the team to like be open to ideas. Otherwise you'll never get anything done, and it'll just be a vent sesh, which, by the way, real quick, vent sessions where you're just venting and complaining as a group actually bring you closer together, but I don't recommend them because they bring you closer together by separating you from everyone else. So instead, try to bring yourself together as a team by positive growth, and then you'll feel more connected to the organization as well. All right, number 4, strategies for a productive meeting, draw everyone's thoughts out by asking each person for their input, or use an app or use chat or something so people can give their thoughts without speaking up if they're nervous about that, even though I think you should learn to speak up. But in the meantime, there is a cool app, I just haven't used it, but it looks cool, called Balloon, and it's a way to basically get everybody's input in a meeting. There's other things like that, I'm sure, but it also just somebody leading the meeting. That's another good strategy, just having somebody lead it. I don't have that on the 8, but now you've got 9, you've got a bonus. But that person leading the meeting should draw everyone's thoughts out. Like they should be good at thinking, oh, that person hasn't talked yet, and what might they think? And so just ask them like, hey, Billy, what were you thinking about all of this? Or do you agree with what we've said so far? Number 5, leaders, or just the person leading it, or in general, it'd be nice to have this culture, but ask people to turn their cameras on, because then people are more engaged and hopefully aren't multitasking, which multitasking isn't real. So, and I am not joking about that, actually. It's really not. But if people's cameras are turned on, you just feel way more connected to them. Number 6, decide on each person's tasks and say them out loud in the meeting before the ending. So it's like, doesn't offend anyone right now, but it'll be harder to ask them a week from now, hey, did you get that thing done? So at the end of a meeting, hopefully you've taken some notes, which is later on here, but and you just have like even the shortest notes of like what was decided and who's doing what. So just say that at the end of the meeting, and make sure you have consensus. Sometimes that sparks more conversation. 7, be okay ruminating on things and scheduling another meeting. This is like, it definitely happens in work too, but I feel like it happens with my wife a lot, where it's like we talk about something and it can feel intense. So it's like, let's just think about that for a while. Let's talk about that tomorrow or later or next week or something. I think sometimes we just need that, like, and this is how ideas work, is when you front load your mind with things like research, you plan, you talk, you discuss, you write, you really think about something, and then you just give your mind space to relax and get away from that thing. That's when the ideas flow. So, and they'll just come to you. So, and you'll be able to, like, it'll settle, you'll feel the right decision to move forward with. So be okay having another meeting. You don't have to like take on the whole world in one meeting. And last but not least, number 8, use the optional field intentionally. So this is kind of a culture thing too. But yeah, if you have people that you might like to be there, use that to field. Those are people you think really need to be there, and the option field as if they're just interested in joining. So don't just put everyone in the to field or something like that. All right, 8 ways to better engage in a meeting. And warning, this might take some courage. So I think it was Jordan Peterson who said something when I was listening, like, if you want to live an adventurous life, just always tell the truth. And you can just let that sit with you for a while, because how often do we not fully tell the truth? Like, how are you doing? Oh, good. Like, what if you actually told somebody how you're doing? Or what if, during a meeting, instead of being like, well, they'll call on me if they think if I'm important enough to say anything, or when everybody else seems to be agreeing on something, but something's still nagging at you about it, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense, or you don't say anything. What if you always spoke the truth? Like, it might be just your truth, like it might be wrong. It takes humility to do this well, because if you're arrogant doing it, then it'll come off as like you're a know-it-all. But who cares? Be a know-it-all for a few years and figure out that you don't know it all. And like, it's better to say what you think and then learn from it than to just never say what you think and never grow and never learn, just hide. So number 1, 8 ways to better engage in meetings. Think about that. Speak the truth, like speak what you actually think, and try to have an open mind, try to be kind, try to be optimistic, try to be understanding of the other people, but speak the truth. Don't just say what you think people want to hear. Number 2, I've alluded to this, but don't complain without an open mind to solutions. This is like the biggest discouragement ever, and like just frustration ever to somebody like me who's optimistic, idealistic, is when people are just so stuck in their ways, and just for the sake of just because they see like everything that could possibly go wrong with something, and that's a super big strength actually, but they also have to be open to ideas. Otherwise it's just like constant rubbing against one another and not really accomplishing anything. So don't vent. Like I said, it's just pushes. Even if you and the other person feel closer, you feel farther away from whatever you're venting about. Where to vent, how to do that well. I think you need to do that on your own. You need to get on your own, and you can be honest in a journal or something, but just as the Bible puts it, like go lay on your bed and like make right sacrifices. Like think about how you have not always been perfect. Think about and be able to forgive people and move on and think the best of somebody, that they were probably just coming from a spot that made sense to them. And then you can like talk logically about it with somebody like a spouse or whatever, or a colleague that's close. But do that work first, where you're not just venting pure thoughts. Like you should be able to think through some of those things on your own first and forgive and just get space from the issue. So if you're going to complain, that's fine. I think we all need to complain about things because there's things to complain about. And if you're going to speak the truth, some of those true things that you're feeling are going to be complaints. But have an open mind to solutions. And especially for you managers, do the same thing. Try to listen and then work on a solution that really helps, instead of just kind of saying, yeah, you're good, it'll be fine. Actually, what needs to change? All right, so number 3, for better ways to engage, ask questions. If you're starting to fight or argue, it's probably because you've assumed you know something the other person doesn't and you're getting frustrated. So instead, just, and it's getting heated or anything, maybe step away at that point. But hopefully it never gets there, because you're just asking genuine questions. Just keep asking questions until you and the other person are on the same page. Number 4, don't multitask. Yes, I said it. Do not multitask. It's not worth it. We'll talk about some hacks later if the meeting is pointless, but you have to see it or watch it, or it's not something you're interacting with or whatever. But don't multitask, because really what you're doing is you're not paying attention. And that looks like you don't care when you're called on. You're not participating, you're not helping, you're not learning, you're just doing your other thing, but not doing it very well. You're not focused on it, you're not getting through it. Just today, like there was a meeting where it was completely informational, and I thought, I'll just listen only and I'll get some other stuff done. But what ended up happening was I didn't listen very well and I didn't get stuff done very well. It's just frustrating. So turn your camera on, give full attention to people, and you will completely stand out, and it'll be really helpful and good for you too, because otherwise you would have just done something else and not really gotten much done anyways. So you might as well be attentive. And if you're saying no to meetings that you shouldn't be at, then you'll be in a better spot. You won't have to be tempted to multitask as much. Number 5, give your full attention. So same as kind of opposite of don't multitask. So give your full attention. Turn on your camera and care about the other people and engage. Number 6, take notes. I just have gotten in this habit, and it's just like I don't know what I'm doing in a meeting without taking notes. Like it's just jotting them down real quick, even just partial thoughts or whatever. It helps you, I think, to just stay engaged in the meeting, but also like process things, and you can always look back at it later if you need to know like what was decided, or put a question mark next to something you want to get back to, those sorts of things. Number 7, shower. Wear decent clothes, like if you're a remote worker. And I'm guilty of not doing this. It's Monday, I want to wear my sweatpants, but get ready before the day. In an ideal world, like that's what you're doing. You're confident and you're putting forth your best self, and that'll show up in the meetings. And you'll just be more confident, able to turn on that camera, able to engage. So just shower and wear decent clothes, people. Turn on your camera. Your face is your face. Like, there's some people I work with or like have meetings with or whatever that don't want to show their camera because they are embarrassed of how they look. And I'm like, whether or not whatever you look like I know what you look like. So it's like, that's what I'm imagining when I'm talking to you. So it's not like turning off your camera helps that or not. If anything, it just makes you feel timid and like shy and like not self-confident. I mean, like, I'm reading a Lincoln biography right now, and he said, like, he never wished on even his worst enemies to be as ugly as he is. Like, he just thought he was the ugliest person. And yet we have statues of him everywhere, and nobody says, oh, that dude's ugly. Even though when you really look at him, you're like, I see what he's saying, maybe, but I wouldn't have thought that unless he said it. So I think that's how it is with a lot of us. Like, yeah, we're not like gorgeous, but let's just be okay being ourselves. Like, that's part of the courage, speaking the truth that you feel, what you think. Like, just put your face on a camera and engage. Like, I feel so much more connected with the people that have cameras on, and it's so important to be connected. And if you don't like what you look like, you can change that a lot of times. Like, maybe get in shape, get a coach or something, like a plan where you can sustainably, little by little, lose weight or whatever it is. Like, you can change your image if you don't like that or whatever, but for the most part, just be yourself, and that's totally cool. Like, people love an authentic you more than anything you could come up with or create. All right, final thing. So 3 ways to hack bad meetings that you aren't in charge of. So number 1, watch the recording. Yes, but do it at 2 times the speed. So just try it. You're probably already doing it with this podcast. Put it in 2x, like double the speed. Hopefully your meetings are being recorded with the age we live in, with the Teams chat and things. So if you're able to do that, watch the recording at 2 times speed, and you can just focus on just that for 15 minutes, half hour. You can cut through like we're waiting for people to come in for 5 minutes, and thanks for joining, and we're just going to talk about this and this and that. And it's like, okay, that was 10 real minutes. Well, you skip all of that with the recording. You get to minute 11 where they start talking about stuff, and you do it at 2 times the speed for the next 40 minutes, and then you're done, 40 minutes of the meeting, so it's really just 20 minutes to you, and you can focus, be done, skip through things that are pertinent or not to you. So watch the recording, number 1. Number 2 way to hack meetings that you can't get out of or aren't in charge of, go look at a presentation deck or information yourself. So if there's a meeting where they're presenting information and it's repetitive and you don't need to see the full thing. I'm thinking of a very particular meeting, but I don't want to offend anybody at my company. But there's all the information that is presented in the meeting is in another software that just shows like the designs and things for it. So it's just like takes 2 minutes to look through all of the material quickly, exactly what I need to look at for that content, and have all my questions answered by just looking through all of that stuff myself, instead of an hour of watching it. So it's literally the difference of that sometimes, if you can get away with it. And then just don't go and see if anybody notices. Like, there was one meeting that was recurring for a while, and I kept asking, like, what do you want from me in this? Like, I keep speaking up, but it doesn't feel like you want me to speak up. It feels like I don't know what this is about. And eventually I stopped going, and nobody noticed. Or if they did notice, they were like, thank goodness Robert's out of this meeting, because they never said anything to me. But maybe it's just a case of like, they felt like they should or had to invite you or something. And so anyways, if you're able to not go, don't go. That also takes courage, but you can do it. All right, people, that is the meeting episode. You really stayed with it. I know we've had so much to go through. Remember, we talked about 7 reasons meetings happen unnecessarily. We talked about 5 ways to have reasons that you should have a meeting. We talked about 8 strategies to have a productive meeting, 8 ways to better engage in that meeting, and 3 ways to hack a bad meeting. I hope that at least something in there was super valuable. You felt the themes of taking courage, of valuing your time, and of caring about your coworkers, connecting with them and your customers, whoever you're meeting with, that's a huge part of the human experience, and you'll feel so much more satisfied in your job and life when you're connecting with people. There's some themes in there that I hope you saw run through, some principles. So I'm hoping that that's helpful for you. I'm annoyed when podcasters always say, I hope that was helpful. It's like, of course it was super helpful. But anyways, I'm the one saying it now. So there you go. All right, don't forget to, my free gift to you, the 2-hour, Take Back 2 Hours a Day guide. So it's just 2 pages, and it's going to give you my exact power routine so that you can kill distractions, get through that email, keep really small lists, get one main thing done a day, so that you can get back 2 hours. Like one of my students said the very first day they put in the practice, they got 2 hours back, and it has been super helpful. So, that's what it's for. Get those 2 hours back. You'll find it at timesmith.work/guide. And then please give this a star. Please share this, like I said before, and subscribe. And another resource I want to give you on this is called No Fail Meetings by Michael Hyatt. That guy has just so much great stuff to say, so check that out. All right, until next week, thank you, and go live a lot less stressed life, focused life, a productive life, and do the things that you've always dreamed of. That's what we're here for. All right, until next time, time to sit down.